Okay. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to this, our 35th of hopefully many episodes of Bardadvice, a podcast where I, Charles, Chaz, Yazik, the DM, the Bard, do my best to dispense advice for your questions about D&D, TTRPGs, and life in general. Hope everybody's doing well today and this week, and that everything's going well as it can for everyone out there. At the top of our show, we like to remind everyone to please send your questions, concerns, complaints, compliments, criticisms, etc. to bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. If you want to get some merchandise, like a mug or a shirt, you can do so at manshorts.com. You can also get shorts there. And if you want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, i.e. my third album, Organized Lightning, which I'm currently developing, you can contribute to that directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Y-A-H-Z-I-C-K. Alrighty. So, hope that everybody is doing all right. It is definitely hot. I hear you on that. I mowed today and had some snake encounters, which is just a whole nother barrel of nonsense that we won't get into. But we do have questions tonight. Now, before we get into too much, we do also at the top like to thank all of our patrons, our members, super chatters. Remind everyone to please like the video or the podcast wherever you are, and can comment, subscribe, share it with your friends if they're looking for a D&D podcast. We got a lot of that going on here. And rate on your platform of choice. Football is back in other news, which is exciting. We, the Jaguars, being the Jaguars, play the Lions tomorrow afternoon in Detroit. So I'll be doing what I can to get up and watch that game. Also, that's it for football. The football's back. So, I don't know what's going on here with the thing. Everybody can hear me, right? Yeah, okay. Whatever, YouTube. Art Corner. Let's talk about that. Now, it's not actually really so much art as much as it's kind of a story that's happened recently. And it's a little late because this happened a couple of weeks ago. It actually happened at the beginning of the month. I got more than one email about it, and I just hadn't had time to really look into it. So let's talk about it. So this is an article, I believe it was from Polygon. It's a little mixed up how I put it on here, but that's just kind of how it had to go. The headline is D&D publisher updates policies after AI art discovered in the latest book. D&D maker Wizards of the Coast has acknowledged AI-generated artwork was published in its source book, Big B Presents Glory of the Giants, which released digitally on August 1st for those who pre-ordered it. The Hasbro-owned company said in a statement that it will update its policies going forward to keep AI-generated or assisted work out of its publications. Yeah, I don't believe that. Images remain online at D&D Beyond and are expected to be included in the physical book when released August 15th. Well, that already happened. While we weren't aware of the artist's choice to use AI in the creation process for these commission pieces, don't believe that either. Wizard said in a statement posted Saturday to Twitter, it's Twitter, we have discussed with him and he will not use AI for Wizard's work moving forward. The controversy came to light on Friday when D&D author Never Not DM posted on Twitter to call out what he considered seriously concerning evidence of AI's use in Glory of the Giants, which will be published on August 15th. So, they kind of threw the artist under the bus, yeah? Like, I definitely don't believe that they didn't know that the artist was doing that. So, it's kind of, I don't know, it's not a very good look for them to be like, oh, we didn't know that was going on. Anyway, Saturday artist Illa Skippen wrote on X, we'll call it X just for fun, that he'd used AI for certain details or for polish and editing, and went on to post comparisons of finished work and initial sketches to show what he meant. After pushback from artists and others in the D&D community, Skippen deleted the post, published screenshots of Skippen's comparisons on Saturday. So, the final art after final art for this character, Frostborn, and others on D&D Beyond has characteristics that indicate AI was used. And another one, the Frost. This is part of the annoying thing too about the AI art thing is now we're going to be entering this weird valley of like, oh, we got to check everything. Everything's got to be scrutinized. We got to like look at everything with a microscope because it may be AI art. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. The Skippin's art has been in almost 10 years of D&D books, going back to 5th edition's debut in 14. Wizards and Saturday statement said it's revising our process and updating our artist guidelines to make clear that artists must refrain from using AI art generation as part of their art creation process for developing D&D art. Yeah, they'll just call the people that do it engineers. This isn't the first time AI art creation in the world of tabletop games have clashed, resulting in statements and policies. In March, Paizo, makers of Pathfinder and Starfinder, promised all contracts with its artists would forbid any use of AI art in their work. About 2 months before that, a group of 3 artists filed a class action complaint against 2 companies that make AI art tools and DeviantArt, which has its own AI art generator. The fallout over the inclusion of AI art on social media was relatively muted, with many noting that the influx in this kind of art is relatively new to the industry. Nevertheless, it's just another in a long line of public relations issues for Wizards this year, including the OGL in January and the acknowledgement of the Pinkerton agents were sent to retrieve Lake Magic the Gathering cards for Content Creators Home in April. Also, didn't Magic get a whole bunch of cards stolen from Gen Con? Is that true? Did I hear that, like, in passing? I'm not too tapped into the Magic world, but I feel like I heard that they got a bunch of, they got like almost $1 million worth of cards stolen. Which is just like, how much of that stuff is even true and how much of it is marketing at this point? Anyway, not to go on too long about this, but just the notes here for the actual responses from respectively, I'll say the artist response first. This is from Isla Skippen. There's a recent controversy on whether these illustrations I made were AI generated. AI was used in the process to generate certain details or polish and editing. That makes a difference to me. To shine some light on the process, I'm attaching earlier versions of the illustrations before AI had been applied to enhance details. As you can see, a lot of painted elements were enhanced with AI rather than generated from ground up. Meanwhile, Wizards said, today we became aware that an artist used to create, like they're hearing about it for the first time. Wait a minute, what? We have artists? We became aware that an artist used to AI to create artwork for the upcoming book, Bigby Presents Glory of the Giants. We have worked with the artist since 2014. He's put years of work into books we all love. While we weren't aware of the artist's choice to use AI in the creation process for these commission pieces, we have discussed with him, and he will not use AI for Wizards' work moving forward. Well, how will you know? We're revising our process and updating our artist guidelines to make clear that artists must refrain from using AI art generation as part of their art creation process for developing D&D art. I don't think that policy will last, or if it does, again, they'll just call the people that are creating the images with AI art engineers. So, not a very chipper art corner this week, but thought that it was important to bring up just to kind of keep everybody aware of what's going on in the space, I guess. So that won't be the last that we hear of that, not just with D&D, but with stuff in general when it comes to AI. I'm not somebody that watches TV frequently, but I imagine that if there aren't already, we will very soon be seeing AI-generated content for ads, whether it's, even if it's just, even like the animation stuff. A lot of it's getting better. I mess around with it frequently. I speak to ChatGPT every day. And I use Midjourney. And it's not perfect, but it's getting crazy, and there's a new tool every day. So we're going to find out. We will see what's going to happen. Wizards hasn't cared about the artist since day one. Well, I don't know about since... Well, yeah, probably. Wizards still acting the dummy and people still caring. So over Wizards, I completely checked out until today. Probably been 4 months. Yeah. Well... there's always Baldur's Gate 3. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But I also didn't want to make this a completely morose expenditure of Art Corner. Also, it's a longer one than usual. But I did want to just mention that my wife and I last weekend went and saw Barbie, and I loved it. I thought that it was fantastic. I'm confident that it will be up for set design. It will likely be up for Best Original Screenplay, and it might win it. I thought it was really fun. I can't imagine why anybody could glean anything negative out of that. I thought that it was, I heard the point loud and clear, and I think it's a movie for everybody. I think it was great. I think they executed it well. And honestly, I think that Kate McKinnon was like the sleeper star as Weird Barbie. She was really funny. Anyway, I highly recommend it. So, let's get into some questions, because we've got some, and we're already, man, we're running a little behind, but that's okay. The first question that we have this week, according to the list of names, is from Nick. And Nick asks, Bard, last week you mentioned Baldur's Gate 3. Indeed. Have you downloaded/started playing it yet? If so, which race and class did you go with? Also, any plans to stream it in the future? Thanks for all the content. Well, thank you for the question, Nick. I did indeed download Baldur's Gate 3, finally. Now, I will be forthright, I have not played too much. In fact, I probably only have 3 or 4 hours on the game, most of which was spent character building and rebuilding. But all of that's to say, I did get it, and I have played it, and it looks really fun. I am looking forward to playing it with a group of friends of mine who have it, because I think that that'll make it a lot more enjoyable for me. It's kind of a lot to take on just for me, just because, I did try to play Divinity Original Sin, is that what it's called? But it was just too much for me. There's too much going on, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's just the way that it's like overhead and you have to move the camera with the mouse. I don't know. It's my brain doesn't work for it, but I can figure it out and I'll make it work if I'm playing with some buddies. And I made a wood elf druid. So, but I'm giving serious consideration to, especially like considering what happens with the rest of the group, doing a Dragonborn or a Githyanki fighter. So, yeah, it's really good. First of all, let me just say this about Baldur's Gate 3, and I'll do my best for there not to be any spoilers. I'm sure that a lot of people are looking forward to getting it if they haven't already, and the reviews have been outstanding. I was not prepared, likely because I don't have experience in playing either of the first two that preceded it, for how just hardcore it is. And not to say that I just was kind of taken aback by, like, whoa, we dove right in there. The opening sequence of Baldur's Gate 3 was, whew, man. It's been out long enough to be spoiler time. Yeah, well, I don't know. Some people might not have been able to grab it yet. Anytime you want to run it, Chaz, I'm always down to co-op BG3. Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, you might actually end up, River, being incredibly helpful in me, like, learning how to do it and figuring it out, because patiently waiting for it on Xbox. Yeah, what the heck is the hold up there? What are they trying to figure out how to make it work? Probably, right? I mean, they wouldn't be, like, holding it back by choice. They, I guess they're doing the best they can to get it out. But yeah, I just think that I was really, I'll just say this, the opening really knocked me, it was a punch to the gut in a good way. I was a little spooked out. I was a little scared, to be honest. When I played the opening, I was like, whoa. Someone said it was turn-based, and he flaked. Yeah, but I mean, D&D's turn-based. Everyone was so up in arms with the bear sex thing. The Dark Urge origin is so much more deranged. Yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot of weird stuff that's going on in there that I've yet to discover, and I'm looking forward to. And as for streaming it in the future, yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I think that might be fun. It'd be, especially because Justin got it, so it'd be kind of fun to run like Flim Flam and maybe Flam Flam. Maybe we have a return of Flim Flam and then the introduction of Flam Flam. Flim Flam's cousin or something. And then we just have both of them running. That'd be fun. Oh, well, thank you for the question, Nick. Let's move on to the next one. The next question on the list of names is from Ian. Yes? And Ian asks, Hi, Chaz. I'm the cleric in a 5e homebrew campaign, and the DM has informed me that next session we'll be diving into my backstory, which involves a long-lost sibling. Any ideas on cool ways to introduce this to the game? Keep up the pod. I'm looking forward to Organized Lightning. Thank you, Ian. So, and I'm glad to hear that you're looking forward to the album. Actually, I made good progress on it this week in particular, but we could talk about that later in chat. For now, so you've got a cleric and they've got a long-lost sibling. So it depends, I think, on how you intend this character to exist in the campaign. So I think that if you know how you want the character to exist in the campaign, that can kind of guide you in where you go with the story. So I said, be transparent about your expectations as to how this character will work. Is it strictly for RP? Is it an NPC, a DMPC, or do you have intentions to run it yourself? So if it's an NPC, then the DM can use it as kind of a story device to really just kind of enrich the backstory and your connection to the rest of the party as they learn more about you. But alternatively, a DMPC could be a pretty powerful ally, but giving the DM the wheel can be risky. That could turn on you. That could bite you if you give the DM that license to take control of your long-lost sibling who may betray you for any reason that the DM can just kind of make up. And then lastly, if you run it as a PC, then the DM may limit you, but they may just allow you to run them both full strength, and then you've got another party member. If you go that route, make sure the sibling is something that the party needs, i.e. a healer. You know, just as like as an example. I don't know why a party would ever need a healer. So, based on all of those things, and that's true, Avram points out the DM can do that regardless as to, and you have to, sorry, but let me see what chat's saying. Sorry, I got off on a tangent just reading my answer. You can get a druid companion who is your romance, can be convinced to shapeshift into a bear. Oh, on Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, well, I mean, druids. Having a false hydra that ate your sibling. River with the false hydras. When in doubt, false hydra. Cleric's long-lost sibling could have been taken and raised by an evil cleric, and you have to kill said sibling to progress the story. Evil twin. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. From Pirate and then Ron, evil twin. I like the evil twin. That's always an easy, fun one. You know, another one that I thought of when I was looking at this question earlier, when I was putting this stuff together, was Prince and the Pauper. That kind of always comes to mind when it's long-lost sibling, just because that'd be a really cool thing to put on its head. Like, what if your character was actually a prince who has been in disguise as a commoner in your party, and then this is the way that the rest of the party finds that out. So the actual person who is you, who you've been playing as, returns and you swap places, and that could be a route. That could be a fun way too to kind of switch out characters. To be like, okay, this is the real me. That'd be way fun to do like halfway through the campaign. That's something I would do. That's something I have done. I do that frequently. Usually it's with different characters. I don't always play them at the same time, but it happens. There are a lot of ways you could introduce your sibling. Work with the DM to determine the best options. Could be a plot device. Maybe you have to rescue someone who turns out to be your sibling. Yeah, that's true. Oh, that's a good point from Carlin. You can kind of make it almost a side quest that they don't really know about until it happens. So it seems like it's just a regular side quest, like, oh, you got to go rescue this person. Or it could just be easy as like you hear someone screaming from a well. And so then you have to go over there and investigate, save them, etc. And then boom, you have plot development because it's like, whoa, this guy has the same necklace as me or whatever. I don't know what. I don't know why I thought a necklace, because it's like Double Dragon when they have the little pendant that they put together at the end. I don't know, man. Double Dragon. Anybody on Double Dragon? Can encounter a group on the losing side of a fight. It turns out the sibling is the main aggressor on the bad guys team. That's true. Yeah, I would also definitely consider if you want to do it evil or good. Like, do you want this sibling to be a help to your party? Do you want this sibling to be an ally? Or do you want it to be a thing where it's like an evil twin, or maybe seemingly you got to talk to the DM, right? Because if I'm the DM, I'm thinking, okay, maybe seemingly this sibling is really agreeable and helpful and on the side of the party. And then we find out that maybe not even on their own accord, maybe just because they maybe because they're under their own, they've got their own thing going on. Maybe you find out that the sibling's being blackmailed, and then that's why they've got this whole like evil thing that they're doing that's trying to screw up the party. Oh wow, thank you very much for the donation there, DE Yazik. Any advice for those in California for the hurricane? Get water. Get a lot of water. Which is funny, you wouldn't think if a hurricane's coming, man, I need water. But what happens is if the water goes out, or if there's a problem where the water is contaminated, you're going to need water. So I'd go down to whatever the local store is in California and get some water. And you probably should evacuate if you can. But if you're going to try and ride it out, you're going to need water. And you're going to need flashlights and batteries. And a radio. Get a radio, like an old school radio that you don't need power for. You can run off batteries, so you can still listen to the emergency system when all of the power inevitably goes out. I'm seeing other recommendations in the chat. Camp stove, a generator. Yeah, if you can afford a generator or have a generator. Use that. That's good. Pirate says propane for the grill. Hit up the local army surplus store. Yeah, water and batteries, I'd say, are your number two things. And then a radio. So, thanks for the question. I hope there was an answer there somewhere in the sibling thing. I think you can use any of that stuff. Just more, the short answer to the question is talk to the DM about it, because I think between the two of you, you can figure out a way. And surprise is always cool. If you can figure out a way where it's a surprise for the whole party, that's really cool. But be careful about how much license you give the DM. Remember, I think it's important to establish with the DM how this character exists. Do they only exist as an NPC? Do they have a sheet? They're probably going to need to have stats. And are they going to be a fully fleshed out character that is either a DM PC or a PC that's run by you? Things to think about in preparation. Whoa, what is this nostalgia paragraph from Cat Jazz? Street sharks, biker mice from Mars, cowboys of Moo Mesa, gargoyles. Oh, Cowboys from Moo Mesa. And I remember seeing ads for Cowboys of Moo Mesa in the backs of like Archie comics. They did that as a cartoon 25 years ago. If it's over a cat too, leave. I feel like I've been blessed to live sort of inland enough that most of the hurricanes we've experienced have not been major problems. The last one that was a really major problem for us was probably Matthew, and that's just because it sat on us and rained for 4 days, which sounds like that's what's going to happen in California. So maybe do get out. But if you can't, and you're going to ride it out, do the other things I said. So thank you for the question, Ian, about the character and the sibling. I hope that you work it out. You can either go the evil villain, the evil twin route. You can go like them helping you out route. It all depends on how they're going to exist in the campaign. All right, so let's keep moving. We got another question. This next question is from Taylor. Taylor asks, "Hello, oh wise bard. My partner has been a fan of your content for years and has been listening to the podcast from the beginning." Nice. "Recently, I found myself listening in, particularly towards the end when you chat to chat." Ah, yes, chat. "You have a calming voice and seem like a nice person. Well, that's nice. My question is, what do you think is the biggest selling point of D&D? I ask because he's been encouraging me to join his game, but I'm a bit reluctant. In addition to having never played before, I'm not sure I have the improv skills necessary for the RP aspect. I'm a pretty avid video game player, mostly RPG games like Breath of the Wild, but part of why I like playing video games is I don't have to visualize anything. Well, yeah, and I usually get to play alone. Anyway, I'm willing to try it, and he said you could convince me, so this is me asking, why should I play D&D? Thank you in advance. Well, thank you for the question, Taylor, and good on you for being open-minded. Even though you're reluctant to the idea, I think that you should play. I was reluctant to the idea, which is the main reason I say that. Even though it was buddies of mine that I trusted their opinions, obviously, when they were recommended it, I was still very like, eh. And then I've spoken ad nauseum on my podcast about my initial experience with 3.5, where I played as a paladin and didn't realize that I had to be lawful good, so I couldn't do anything fun with my friends. And as a result, I've been chaotic neutral pretty much exclusively since. But all that's to say, it was kind of rocky at first, but I'm really glad that I played and got into it, and I'll talk about why. Let's see what chat says about your question, and then we'll talk about what I said. So, River says, I love D&D because no video game has the sheer amount of player agency the game gives you. Yeah, customization's the first thing I said. Don't worry about improv at first, just learn what your character can do. Yeah, that's kind of a separate thing, too, that I wanted to talk about, but if you're not great with improv or nervous around people, then lean into that. Yeah, that's what I was actually going to say about that with the improv. If you're worried about the RP thing, you could just make it that your character's mute if you wanted to. I mean, some people might clock that as being lazy, but I'm sure that people would be understandable if it was your first time playing, and that was something that you made as a character choice. You could make a barbarian that speaks in 2-word sentences. Easy peasy. That's it, and it limits the time that people are focused on you as far as what you're saying for the RP elements. And when you do that, it can give you an option, or rather gives you an opportunity to focus more on the mechanics of the game, which is probably a thing that is a concern of yours, even though you didn't mention. So, best description I can give for D&D is this. It's basically storytelling with dice. Gives you the chance to learn improv skills, writing, and creativity all the while having fun with friends. Yeah, that's another note on the improv thing, too, with, like, not being good at RP. You mentioned that you like to play games alone. Well, probably part of the reason that you don't feel very equipped to do the improv RP stuff is that you've not really done it. And really, just like anything else, obviously there are people, I think, who have a natural affinity for certain things. There are people that have a certain draw to certain things. But I think that for the most part, anybody can do anything. And when it comes to skill stuff, like improv, for example, it's a matter of just developing that muscle like anything else. So it's just a matter of repetition. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get with it. And like I said, you can kind of start from the beginning of making the character however you want to in terms of the RP. You're in control of that. You have, as River pointed out, there's player agency there. So what I've put is ultimate customization. Also, like with homebrews, the homebrew stuff is a thing that not a lot of games offer. Obviously, there's things like Minecraft and like Gary's Mod, but there's just something about the great plug and play of D&D when it comes to homebrew, because there's such a strong foundation of rules and mechanics that you can essentially lay whatever you want on top of it, and people have and do all the time. So I said the game's kind of always updating, and I think that some people might like this. Some of you people in chat might like this note that I put, but the best part about D&D is actually all the games that aren't D&D. So obviously D&D was one of the front runners, probably the first game of its kind. Obviously there were war games that preceded it and stuff like Chainmail, and there's the other one that I'm forgetting. But D&D was kind of really the first big one that all of the other ones were able to exist of because of. And so when you consider that D&D has spawned stuff like Pathfinder, Call of Cthulhu, Vampire the Masquerade, Cyberpunk, D20 Modern, Sidewinder, Star Wars. So that's the other thing too about a tabletop game, is that once you play one and kind of get the basic understanding of the mechanics, not that they're all the same across the board, but they're all very similar. If you know one, it's not terribly difficult to pick up another one. So even if you're not really about the whole fantasy medieval aspect of D&D, then you might want to play Cyberpunk, or you might want to play like an old, like a Wild West campaign. But ultimate customization is what I can say to you. And if you're somebody that likes Breath of the Wild, you could easily recreate Link in 5e as a fighter or ranger. It'd be very easy to do. I'm sure that people have done it. There's probably an archetype online. There's probably a homebrew class that's for like Hyrule Warriors or something. I'm sure of it. So I think that ultimate customization, and to your point about visualization, a lot of that is not necessarily on you. Obviously, it's a game of imagination and everybody's encouraged to use their imaginations, but there is some of that is put onto the DM. And while you are somebody who is not comfortable with your RP improv skills or feels that they're not very developed, the DM probably has pretty developed improv and RP skills. That's why they're the DM. So the DM will give you the visualization. I am somebody that has difficulty visualizing when it's presented to me either via text or audio. But, Ethan, our DM, I think does a really good job of explaining what's going on. And so it makes that easier on me. So it's not to say that the DM is entirely responsible for how you visualize the game. It's just to remind you that it's kind of 50-50, maybe even a little more on the DM, maybe 60-40. But still, obviously, the world is going to be what you imagine it to be. So I don't think you'll have that hard of a time. I think you should play. And if you play something fun and easy like a barbarian that's just like a complete dum-dum, just swinging a giant hammer around, you're going to have a great time. Whether you feel comfortable about doing the RP improv and stuff, and the other players in the party and at the table should be totally cool and understanding of the fact that you're new, and they'll be encouraging and help answer any questions you have. And don't worry about the rules. Just, you can figure it out as you go. Could Link actually be Robin Hood? He could be. He could be like an elven form of Robin Hood. Yeah, maybe. Really want to try Runehammer index card RPG system. Link from Zelda, Breath of the Wild, but from all the other ones too. All right. Well, thank you for the question, Taylor. I hope that I've given you an answer that is encouraging in playing. I think that you'll be surprised at how much you enjoy it, especially if, get with your partner, and I would say have him help you build your character the way that you want it to be, so that when you go into it, you'll feel more comfortable about at least what your character is and does. And so you can kind of pick up on what's going on as you go. And maybe even consider, I don't know, it seems like a bit that maybe that's a lot. Maybe you could just go and sit in on a session and just see what it is first without actually playing, and then maybe decide from there. But I think you should play. I think you're going to have a fantastic time. So thank you for the question. Let's keep moving, because we're already we're already on the other side of half an hour in this thing, and we've got 4 more questions. Well, no, we've got 3 more questions and then a bit of a follow-up. So that was from Taylor. Thank you for the question, Taylor. This next question is from, you guessed it, Chris. And Chris asks, are there any hobbies that you have wanted to try but couldn't? I don't know if couldn't is the right word. I I always consider there to be several different life paths that I could have gone down, and went down this one, the one of the creative entertainer slash musician. But there's a lot of things that I probably could have ended up doing and being interested in as far as skills or hobbies. So I made a list of a couple. Disc golf. Disc golf is a thing that I frequently make fun of, but in another life would definitely play like semi-professionally. Drawing or any kind of like visual art design, that's a thing that I just never developed and wanted, and maybe one day I will. I don't know. I don't imagine that my hands are going to get any more dexterous as I get older, but maybe sometime. It's just a skill I never developed and wanted to. Warhammer. Warhammer is definitely a hobby that I couldn't is good for that one. Because if I were into Warhammer, I would live in a shack. I would have no money. I would be spending all my money on minis. I'd be divorced. There's no way that I'd be able to maintain my marriage and Warhammer. Just because of the way that I am. I know that I'm obsessive. And when I first started working at the vape shop that I work at, the guy that was training me was into Warhammer. And he started breaking it down and explaining it to me one day. And I was just like, yep, nope, can't do this. Can't do this because that's where all my time and money will go. Baking. Baking is a thing that I've kind of would maybe want to do more of, get more into. I also feel that in another world, I would have been a drag queen in another life. And then I also, in another life, would have been a wrestler. And here's a weird thing about that. I was working on lyrics this week, and Bray Wyatt came into the mix of the lyrics, who I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with, is a professional wrestler. The funny thing about Bray Wyatt is that he was born like 8 days before me, 100 miles away from me. So it's like... And he's like 4 inches taller than me. It's just interesting because it's like, whoa, we're like the same guy. We're like different versions of the same guy. Because I totally feel like if I would have played football in high school instead of being in the band, then I probably would have either kept playing football or I would have gone into something like wrestling. That's a thing that I wouldn't be shocked to see a version of myself doing at all. Secret long lost twin. Yeah, man. Hey, Bray Wyatt, if you're out there. It's really bizarre because he was born in, I think it's called Brooksville or Brookerville, something like that, which is like 100 miles south of Gainesville, where I was born. And he was born on like, I think May 23rd or May 24th, 87. And I was born on May 31st, 87. Isn't that bizarre? Whoa. And he went to your college, Troy University. Crazy town. Man, small world. Really bizarre. But those are the things. And that's just kind of a short list. I'm sure there's more. If I really sat and thought about it, I could list a lot of things. But gas-powered RC cars. Oh, man, that'd be kind of neat to get into. You're going to head out early. Oh, all right, River. Well, yeah, man, have a good one. We'll try and link up on Baldur's Gate 3 and stuff. Have a good one. Thanks for joining. When was Red Riding Hood for Halloween last year? And your wife was the big bad wolf. That's pretty cool. That's always fun. Ooh, Halloween. Halloween is knocking on the door, yeah? What, are we almost through August? It's coming. It's the next good holiday. And then we're in Thanksgiving and Christmas. Whoa, man. Stuff is flying by this year. It's been a crazy, wild, insane year. Yeah? Let's keep moving. we've got 2 more questions and a follow-up, and then we'll have some chat. This next question is from Mike. Mike asks, I'm getting older, early 60s, and I'm not as quick thinking as I used to be. I doubt that. I'm sure it has an impact on the quality of my DMing, though my players have never complained. Well, that's important data. Do you have any advice to help keep it moving and coherent? How do you know when to step away and avoid the eco blow of everyone bailing on you? Oh, excuse me. Well, thank you for the question, Mike. First of all, I think you're entirely too hard on yourself. You mentioned that you're not as quick thinking as you used to be. I hate to tell you, but that's the case for literally everybody. Our brains just start dying as they fully develop, and then they just start to die. So I don't know that anybody is as quick thinking as they used to be. And the fact that you said that your players are never complained, I think is very important, because it seems to be that it is only a potential problem that is in your own mind. It's not, nothing has happened yet, it seems, where it's interfering with, but you feel like it might. So, and I don't think that I certainly don't think that your party is just going to bail on you. But I made a couple of notes here, and this is what I said, and then we can definitely take a look and see if chat has any recommendations. But I said game prep, you can never over-prepare. I've found that if I prep my podcast early or I do more prep work, it runs way more smoothly. So designing a clear roadmap and having game prep, and you may already be somebody who does game prep, and that might not be helpful, but it's something to consider. Streamlining the rules is always helpful, even if that involves like doing tweaks with homebrew stuff. I'm sure the party would be totally down for that. Notes and reminders for things. I'm so forgetful. This is the thing, man. I'm 36 and I don't ever know what's going on. So I definitely relate to that. Notes are really helpful, even if it's like set as an alarm on your phone for it to go off, because sometimes I'll make a note and then I'll forget to read the note, and that defeats the purpose of the note. But if you make it like an alarm, then it'll go off, and then it's like, oh yeah, I gotta do this thing. I gotta answer this email. Good thing this alarm went off on my phone. Delegate work. We talked about that, I think, either last week or the week before, when there was a question about a party of mixed experience and how you can delegate some of that work to the more experienced players. So that's something that you could do. And communicating with the players, which is just advice that I usually include in any of my advice. I'd say, I think you'd probably be surprised if you said to them how you were feeling. They would probably be like, whoa, what are you talking about? Like, we haven't noticed any problems at all. But maybe they might be able to offer some suggestions of things that they could do that would at least, at a minimum, offer you some sort of a peace of mind. If they don't know that you're feeling that way, they can't do anything about it. So I think communication with the party is really important too, just letting them know. And while this is not like in my top 3 recommendations, and probably not yours, but it's just something to consider, there is always co-DMing. If you feel like, if you feel like you might be hanging up the screen, so to speak, soon, then maybe you start kind of training a predecessor, so to speak, where you start doing co-DMing. But it sounds like you're just feeling maybe a little worried or insecure about, just kind of getting old and maybe forgetful, and how it might impact the D&D. I really doubt that it's going to be as impactful as you think it might. And I think that if you communicate with your players, you can eliminate a lot of those. You can eliminate a lot of those concerns. Let's see what chat's saying. Let's see. Lean into the senile old wizard trope, or just rely on your depth of experience, since you've already dealt with most ideas they could come up with. True. Talk with the group and ask them to be honest with you, and keep going for as long as you have players. Yeah, for sure. Best advice I could give is there to just have an honest conversation with your group. Ask them if they're still enjoying the game, or if they've noticed anything different. Detailed notes help too. Yeah, no doubt. Because, you might find that you're actually valid in your concerns. And they might say, yeah, you know what, you're right, we have noticed that. But that's not necessarily a bad thing because, again, if you breach the conversation, then they can at least contribute to the issue and say, yeah, well, if we did this thing, and it might be some real small thing that really, really helps that you hadn't even thought of and you wouldn't know until you talk to them about it. So, why's the rum gone? Oh, man, that makes me think of that song. Be open to feedback also as the forever DM of your games. It doesn't hurt to take a break. Let someone else DM for a bit. Yeah, no doubt. That too. Stepping away. That's usually advice that I try to include in stuff too when it comes to like just burnout or just feeling like maybe you're not at the top of your game, so to speak. Take a break. Let somebody else do something. There's very well a player that's been waiting to run some one shot. You can just say, hey, we're going to take a break from this for the next 6 weeks or whatever, while I kind of recalibrate. And maybe you don't even play with whatever they're doing, but sometimes stepping away is an answer too. But if you don't want to, I'd say just game prep, streamlining rules, notes and reminders, delegation, communication. Communication should be at the beginning of that list. But at any rate, that's what I've got for you. And hopefully that gives you some sort of an answer and direction. If he has those concerns, he should teach one of the other players to DM. And exactly, could step away and become the Greybeard mentor. Yeah, that's true. Then you could just be kind of like the crazy guy that shows up with like a crazy strong character, or like, they go to for lore or something. You come in as like a special guest for stuff. Whatever's comfortable for you, but definitely talk to him because that will guide you. That will guide your decision making a lot. Just switched back to DMing this week. Sister took over for a few weeks so I could take a breather. Sometimes it's necessary. See, there you go. Let someone else DM and they'll appreciate how much work it is. Yeah, that too. Oh, that's happened to me more than once where the DM has been like, oh, okay, you know what? You're going to do it. And then it's like, whoa, didn't want this. That's kind of actually how I got into it in the first place. But anyway, hope that gives you an answer, Mike. Best to you. I'm sure that you're much sharper than you give yourself credit for. And I hope that you get to the bottom of that mystery. Let's move on to this last question, which is from River. And it's a shame that he's not here to hear it, but that's okay, because I can just message him later and let him know that I did it, and he can go back and listen to it later. River asks, as a DM and as a player, how do you feel about the laid-back sessions and or shopping sessions? Well, thank you for the question, River. I gotta say, they're some of my favorite things. I am somebody who is way more of a fan of... Gee whiz, I don't know where my voice is going. I am someone who is way more of a fan of the RP aspect than the combat aspect of the game. I'm also better at the RP aspect than the combat aspect, I think. And so as a result, I love those kind of sessions because they're ripe for RP. And in particular, in my answer, I said I enjoy them, like we're in court. In my answer, I said I enjoy them. Downtime mostly lends itself to character development and customization opportunities. So some examples I thought of were in Airships of Nuada. Tantor went shopping for clothes in the city. That was super fun. Just kind of get to like outfit your character. In the Gnome City, Studebaker Peppercorn was cobbling shoes at one point. Where that had nothing really to do with combat. That was just RP stuff going on. He was like making shoes for people. I think that's the good stuff. I think that that's typically the best stuff. Now, I will say in my experience, more of the memorable moments do, I will admit, come from combat. But there's been some really good, memorable, fun, funny RP moments as well. So... my favorite things, what's the shop got? I don't know. Let's find out as I roll a D100. I've always said that ideally everyone in the D&D group should at least try DMing once. It helps share the perspective of how much work it is, and you can see different styles of DMing too. Yeah, most definitely. You sold 4 pairs. Nice. Nice work. That's so cool that there's like another Peppercorn in the D&D universe. That makes me really happy to know. It's just like, how cool. And what I should do really is just like publicly post the list somewhere of all of the peppercorns, and we'll just get everybody, somebody out there, everybody make their own of them so that they all exist somewhere in a campaign. That's the real goal. That's what we need to do. Shopping time is fun too. Random conversation quickly becomes a new hook I need to flesh out. Definitely true. That is true. It does lend itself to a lot of potential weird side quests that are way off the way off track, way off the path of what you're trying to do. Or it could be, as the DM, so I guess I've been speaking mostly about it as a player. As a DM, I feel like it's a great opportunity for surprise attacks. It's a great opportunity for you to do stuff in the background that they may or may not pick up on. So, you know, kind of perception checks that they may or may not pass, and see that someone is talking somewhere or that something is happening somewhere. Those are all important story element things. It's easy to award XP for combat and loot. It's harder to subjectively award XP for RP. Yes, indeed. And that was one of the cool things about our Forever DM Posey with the hat, where he would give bonus experience for RP stuff. So, not always RP stuff. Sometimes he'd give you the hat if you did something really cool in combat, but a lot of times, more often than not, it was RP related. It was something that was really funny or really cool that was said or done. RP. And let's be honest, like, RP is mostly the game, because like we talked about earlier when I was talking to Taylor about all the different kinds of TTRPGs that are out there, the mechanics are kind of tertiary to what's going on, because what's going on firstly is that you're creating a character. And in my estimation, through TTRPGs, you have the most agency in that customization of that character. And then number two, you're storytelling. You're telling a story. And that story can be quite literally whatever you want it to be, not only with pre-written content, like if you want to run like Strahd or something, but in particular with Homebrew, because you're quite literally making it all up. So I feel like I totally lost my train of thought. But the customization is, in my opinion, the most important thing. And yeah, that's the good stuff, you know? Shopping and downtime can be good for RP and getting new gear, but it can sometimes be boring for other people who aren't buying things or doing much. Try to keep everyone involved if you can. Yes, that's true. And sometimes that can be a thing, because if you are that barbarian that all they do is say 2 words and fights, then that can sometimes be kind of boring for you when there are moments like that, because you are just kind of sitting there. So it's a balance. But this question was about the shopping sessions. And yeah, you're creating a character and you're telling a story. And then, the rules is what I was talking about. The rules are tertiary. Yeah, so the rules are just kind of there. But like I said, if you know the rules of one, you can kind of know the rules of all. It's not too hard to pick up on, and most all of them are based in these polyhedral dice. So, which all have names, by the way, I found out recently while I was doing AI art stuff. Anyway, hopefully that gives you an answer, River. And let's move on to this follow-up, and then we'll do a little chat before we get out of here. This follow-up is from Ruby, and let's get into it. Hi, Chaz. I hope you and your family are doing well and ready for the weekend. Ron and I and our pug daughter Penny are getting ready to watch the podcast. We watch on our joint Gmail account on the TV and message on each of our phones, so you get 3 hits. Nice. It counts because Penny likes listening to you, especially when you make musical noises, which is, I guess, probably often. I wanted to thank you again for help with figuring out how to start back into the world of RPG. We found out there's a game store 10 minutes away, so Ron picked us up the Munchkin game for us to do while I'm recovering from heart surgery. And I've seen you here in the chat tonight, Ruby. I'm glad. I hope that you're doing well in your recovery. We also found out that our nephew is playing 5e and said he is willing to do a one-shot with us and his fiance this fall. Nice. Have a great weekend. We are now watching the second campaign. Please let the group know it helps us so much to laugh while watching the game. Well, thank you, Ruby. That makes me very happy. And I hope that you guys enjoyed Munchkin, because I thought I'm actually excited to hear, because this update that I received on this email is actually like a week old. So I actually received this, I think, almost the day after, the next day from last week's podcast. So we've passed the 14th. We're past the locked up period. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the Munchkin game. But I am glad to hear that your nephew is going to be playing. I'll tell you, more and more people than you think and realize play D&D. I can't tell you how many people I run into in the store on a regular basis that are like, yeah, D&D. Because we have at the store, we have like a little, it's like a little health potion, as it were. It's just like a little vial that has some D4s in it, but they're like red D4s, right? So it's like themed as like a potion of healing or whatever. And occasionally people will point it out like, oh, cool. And you know, if you know what that is, you know what's going on. You probably play. So if you want a really bad example of how to do downtime shopping sessions, Critical Role Campaign 1, Episode 27. I couldn't speak to that, but if that's what you're looking for, according to Carlin, that's where you'll find it. If it's a role-playing game, not a combat simulator. Done right, much enjoyment comes from role-playing, even fairly mundane events. Most definitely. When are we going to do another live campaign? I do not know. Hopefully soon. But I just don't know. Honestly, I'll be honest. There's more of a chance that I'll be doing a Baldur's Gate 3 stream than a campaign again. But I don't know. We may do another campaign. Just depends on how we can do it and what it would look like. As usual, as all these things do. Everything's so finicky. You got to do everything. Everything's got so many things have to go right for stuff to happen. It's crazy. It's amazing anything ever gets done at all. So let's shift into some chat. Thank you for the update, Ruby. Again, hope you're doing well. Let's shift into chat. And I made a couple of notes here that I wanted to touch base on. Last week I brought up the Big Bang Theory, and I just kind of wanted to elaborate on my opinion of what I think of what happened to that show. In my opinion, they Wolverined Sheldon. So what I mean by that is like similar to how it became evident after the 90s and in the 90s that Wolverine was the fan favorite with X-Men. And so they kind of put him to the front and center. It was almost as if Scott Summers was never the leader of the X-Men. Anyways, that's kind of what they did with Sheldon, right? If you watch the first few seasons of The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon is more of a secondary character. He's kind of a secondary main to Leonard. Almost in a way of a sidekick, or like a Kramer, really. Like he's very... But everybody loved him. He was the favorite part of the show. And so they Wolverined him. He became like the main character. And I think that as a result of that, because of the nature of his character, if he's the main guy and you're making all the jokes about him, you're going to run into some of these jokes where it's like, there's a clip, and I don't know what episode, I don't know what season it's from or any of that, but like there's a clip where the joke is literally just explaining... The joke is literally just nerds existing. Like it's Sheldon explaining the difference between like an Xbox and a PlayStation. And like that's the bit, I guess. Like that's the joke. He's like, well, no, yeah, the PlayStation's this and then the Xbox is this. And that's the joke, is that it's like, man, what a nerd to know the specs of these expensive consoles that he's debating buying. Like, I don't know. That's just like my opinion on the Big Bang Theory show anyway. And then also wanted to just follow up on the monkey grip mystery, because I think I said it totally wrong last week, because I thought about it and I went back and looked at the stats and like the size charts and stuff. This is what was going on with that. So I was actually a half-orc. It was not when I was a minotaur. And I wielded a large hammer two-handed, which you can do already. But you can do that already. Well, this is why you can do this because the DM allowed me to do this. Because in 3.5, at least in the PHB, there is no two-handed hammer, so to speak of. So when we were playing this, I think at the time we only had the PHB and the DMG and the monster manual. But there was no two-handed weapon in the 3.5 PHB that is a hammer. And so I wanted one, and so we kind of homebrewed one where it was a large warhammer wielded two-handed. And so he allowed me to do a D10 of damage with it. Then I took monkey grip so that I was wielding a huge warhammer. And I think that we did it at 2d8 damage. It might have even been 2d10, but it was a lot. And then I took weapon focus and greater weapon focus to offset the -2 penalty. Because even with monkey grip, if you wield a weapon that is a class size larger than you're supposed to, you take a -2. But weapon focus and greater weapon focus kind of offset it. So I think with perfect Bab, I was still rolling with like a +12 or 13, something ridiculous. But monkey grip lets you wield a weapon one size larger than you could otherwise. 2d6 blunt damage. 2d6? No, you can't do 2d6 if I was doing... Well, yeah, I guess that's true. Got something, but I might have to send it in a question because it's the first legit D&D question. Please send it in, Duncan. Duncan, don't ask it here. I'm in need of questions. Send it to the email. You know where it goes. You send it to bardadvice@gmail.com. Thanks, everyone. Still one-handed from surgery and have to stay calm while heart recovers. Okay, well, geez, relax. Maybe I should bring it down a notch. If it was oversized weapon damage die would go up to 2d8. Ah, I see. Which one was it, Pirate? I think I might have. Was it the one that you included an article with? Because if so, I'm still thinking on how to answer that. Otherwise, I'm not sure. But I can definitely check after this. So, what's going on with Dragonfire? I don't think so. I'm not sure. If you could resend it, that'd be helpful. Like I said, I'll look, but I can't think of it right now. So, what about good things of the week, everybody? You sent me 2 a few weeks ago. Not sure if you got them. Oh man, yeah. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes it's hit or miss. I'll look for them from both of you. Also, Pirate, isn't your name Chris too? Sorry, not to like dox you, but it's just like statistically, you know, if you're listening to this show, there's a good chance your name's Chris. All right, good things of the week. Give it to me. Bring it on. What do you got, people? My good thing of the week is that I made incredible progress on my album this week. I think I got like, I don't know, I've been banging out verses, and it's sounding good. And I'm doing a lot of, not to say that I'll be doing it alone, but I have been doing a lot more mastering and mixing just to kind of try and, that's a skill that I really want to develop and get better at, more so I don't have to rely on others when it comes to, in a perfect world, I would just teach myself how to make beats, and then I wouldn't need anybody ever again. I could just make everything myself. Of course, then again, it probably wouldn't get done. Collaboration is important in getting a process. You took your comp exam today and hopefully passed. Nice. You didn't die out there in a plane of fire. Yeah, that's true. Wait, your name's not Chris? Well, that's just going to cause confusion. The question will involve a bit of experience of the D&D product we're yet to play. So I guess I'll play, then ask a question with some experience. Okay, cool. Or, hey, you could do both. Why not both? You could ask the question now and then send a follow-up question after you play it, and then maybe we can do them both next week. Made it through the can't be done surgery. Nice. Heck yeah, Ruby. Mine is what I mentioned earlier, back in the DM chair tonight. Got a poker game together after 6 months of planning. Cool. Yeah, getting anybody together for anything is tough these days. And D&D players know. So that's good to hear. What else? What do we got? My good thing, my Tiefling Warlock in Baldur's Gate 3 is rocking. Nice. Finally got confirmation on when I get weekends off work. Should have been 10 months ago, but things happened that delayed it. Yikes, that is a long delay. But that's good to hear that that nightmare is over, Bean, and you know what's going on. Before you've played and after questions. So, those are all great things, people. I'm glad to hear it. We are checking out, gang. We're about to be hitting the road. We're in the wind down section of the evening already. Can't believe it. This thing goes by faster every week. So, I will be back here next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern on the Man Shorts YouTube channel. The audio for this podcast will be available tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Just a reminder for everyone to please send your questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, quizzes. I don't know, like a MySpace quiz, remember those? To bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. If you would like to get some merchandise, get yourself a mug or some shorts, you can do so at manshorts.com. And if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, notably my third album, Organized Lightning, you can do so by contributing directly to PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. I hope that everybody has a fantastic weekend and a fantastic week. I'm looking forward to doing this next week. And that's it. That's all we got. So have a good one.